And I'm so grateful to the people of Arizona for the privilege, for the honor.
McCain received a standing ovation from his colleagues as he made a dramatic return to the Capitol. He was among 50 Republicans who voted yes to open debate on a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. Vice President Mike Pence cast the tie-breaking vote as 2 Republicans and all 48 Democrats voted no. Former Trump presidential campaign chief Paul Manafort is being subpoenaed to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee about the Russia investigation. Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley.
We want Manafort to come, like we want Trump Jr. to come and other people that we're going to call in.
The Iowa Republican announced the release of the subpoena after negotiations with Manafort's lawyers broke down. A survivor of the human smuggling operation that left 10 people dead in San Antonio says the truck driver ignored pleas for help and pounding on the walls coming from the sweltering trailer. Flight attendants and pilots are making the skies less friendly. The New York Post reports a Delta Airlines flight from LaGuardia Airport to Portland, Maine was delayed 2 hours yesterday because of a confrontation between the pilot and a flight attendant just before takeoff. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
It's time to make the Tri-City Center in Redlands a regular part of your weekly shopping experience. Tri-City is home to a wide assortment of quality businesses. Soon, the Tri-City Center will become home to DC Furniture and Ocean Aquatics. You can purchase good quality furniture and accessories at DC Furniture. Ocean Aquatics will offer a wide variety of exotic tropical fish along with food, accessories, and tanks of all shapes and sizes for every home or business. The Tri-City Center is located just off the I-10 between Alabama and the Tennessee exits in Redlands. Visit the Tri-City Center today and discover why it's called the Mall with a Heart.
In addition to news, which involves reporting on real stuff, there's now fake news, stuff that's completely made up. But wait, the barons of corporate news are also adding to today's tumultuous state of journalism by putting out BS news, stuff they know is untrue but is reported because it advances their owner's political agenda. For example, The Washington Post, owned by Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, who's a laissez-faire promoter of privatizing government functions, keeps publishing a load of BS to denigrate our post offices. In an alarmist editorial, the paper declared the U.S. Postal Service continues to hemorrhage red ink. Embracing Bezos' privatization ideology, the editors grumped that postal unions have made our mail service outmoded and insolvent, running up, quote, a net loss of $5.6 billion last year. That is pure bovine excrement, and the editors know it. In fact, thanks to innovative and efficient postal workers, the mail agency racked up a $610 million operating profit last year and a $1.2 billion profit the year before. The $5 billion in red ink that the paper's propagandists pointed to is nothing but a bookkeeping hoax created by Congress to make people believe our post office is a hopeless money loser that must be privatized. In 2006, Congress manufactured an artificial loss for the Postal Service by decreeing that it pre-fund the health care costs of future retirees 75 years in advance. That includes retirees who are not even born yet. No other agency and no corporation, including Amazon, could survive if Congress added a $5 billion a year fictitious loss to their books. This is Jim Hightower saying, yet, in a shameful piece of BS journalism, the Washington Post intentionally ignored the true story.
Hi, this is Bev from Let's Go Shopping with Bev and Friends. If you like to shop the way I like to shop, you got to remember, tune in to each Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. That's right, we moved to Thursday at 3 p.m. with the same fun, laughing, great guests, and fantastic interviews. So remember, tune in at 3 p.m. on Thursday, right here on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. Ciao.
KCAA.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side, where the birds and the bees survive. Right before me, my newfound hippie side once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, smart. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children ride to see Mother Nature sigh?
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Elaine McFadden. I'm your host right here on Smart Health Talk radio show. And in case you're wondering, I'm a registered dietitian with a master's in public health. And what does that mean? That means I'm here for you. Yeah, I'm not here for some big corporate interests or big money. I'm here for you and your health. And unfortunately, most of what's going on out there is working against your health. And you are probably sitting there with a false security that you can actually trust products that you're stocking on the shelves in your home and eating while you're out. But unfortunately, there's a lot of hanky-panky going on. And especially over in Washington, D.C. And I'm not just talking about that health care bill that was just passed by the GOP, repealing Obamacare. Unfortunately, if you are a listener of Smart Health Talk, and since we are for the people and looking after you, the fact that millions of people are no longer going to have health care is actually very upsetting to us. Especially since we know that it's anywhere from a risk of 40 to 60% higher that you will die, without health care. So people that have health care have at least a 40 to 60% higher risk of dying. And so I just, it completely upsets me. We made such a big to-do about these death panels back when they were working on Obamacare, like that was really happening, when actually now we know there were no death panels. Unfortunately, we now have death panels, and people are not screaming. Well, actually, there are a lot of people screaming, and if you go to our website, smarthealthtalk.com, you will see right on our homepage that we have some links on the left-hand side talking about healthcare. We have a picture of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, who is the second most richest man, according to Forbes magazine, tells us that single-payer system is good for business. It's good for business in America, and it's good for Americans. Now, that guy has a lot invested in businesses, so I would just think that if this was not good for business, I really don't think he would be coming out and saying that. And of course, we're very concerned. We are big supporters of small businesses, small local farms. That's where we shop. We go to farmers markets and buy directly from there because we realize the power of our dollars. That's what I'm talking about. The power of the almighty dollar. And I hear so many people saying, well, I don't have very many dollars. What difference could I make with my little dollars? Okay, stop right there, because that dollar bill, what did you put into getting that dollar? Okay? You had to work, you had to use your skill, you had to use your time. I mean, there is so much, maybe a lot of training, went into being able to do your job on how you got that dollar. Those dollars, there is a lot that goes into every single dollar. A lot of you. And so when you spend that dollar, you are actually changing the world. And when you give it to these companies that are putting GMOs in our food, lying to us, deceiving us, paying off, contributing to like the Grocery Manufacturers Association that work to defeat GMO labeling, of which, I believe in buying organic, which, in case you didn't know, GMOs are never, ever, ever allowed in organic products. So anytime you buy anything organic, it's automatically non-GMO. The fact that you see that non-GMO label on there is really kind of redundant because it is non-GMO. Anything organic is non-GMO, and there seems to be confusion out there. That's why I'm spending a couple seconds on this. Seems to be confusion. People see the non-GMO label on organic foods and they think, oh, that organic food is non-GMO, but this other organic food is GMO because it doesn't have the non-GMO seal on it. And that is so far from the truth. The truth is that every single organic product is non-GMO because GMOs are never, ever allowed in organic. Okay? I just want to clear that up. Okay? So we have these companies that are not for us. They are doing everything they can to sabotage our country and our health, our families, our children, how they're born, our ability to have children. All of these things are factoring in because pesticides influence all those things. And we have pesticide spraying go right and left. I tell you, I was so upset this week. I have to share that with you. I was so upset. There was like about 4 times I just wanted to start crying and to just say I give up. But of course, I never give up. But the thing is, I felt like it. And I am pesticides being sprayed right and left. I'm trying to maintain a monarch sanctuary in my backyard. We have our Blue Monarch Project. Please visit our website, bluemonarchproject.com. A link is on our smarthealthtalk.com website as well. And we're trying to stop the craziness of this pesticide spraying. Everyone that has a hand thinks that they have the right to spray pesticides. And they don't care who else is in the wake of that pesticide spraying. In the vicinity of that pesticide spraying. They don't care. I'm walking my dog. I've got someone in their front yard spraying Roundup. That Roundup just went in my lungs. I was just forcibly poisoned. Yep, just walking my dog, forcibly poisoned. Okay, then I got my neighbor across the street. He's got ants. I have a way to get rid of ants. I'm going to make a video. I've got to get that done in the next week because this is like people are having ants right and left. Do not be spraying all kinds of pesticides, everyone. That does not get rid of the ants. You have to get them in the nest. You have to feed the queen poison and way to kill the queen. That's really the way you got to do it. Okay, spraying pesticide all over. It's drifting. I had my neighbor drifting pesticide across the street onto my house. I have all kinds of flowers in my yard with pollen that the bees are going to come and eat. And after he sprays, it's now been contaminated with pesticide. Then I have my neighbors next door. They are working on their house. On the house, they're flipping it. And so I asked the guys out there, are you going to be spraying Roundup? Yeah, we are. I'm like, please, 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 can you not spray Roundup? They actually said they work with me. So this is it. We have to communicate, everyone. We have to communicate with all our neighbors. It's when the communication stops that people just start doing this. Next thing I know, I'm thinking, okay, I'm finally safe. My neighbors on the other side, I had a talk with them. They're a young couple. I explained to them about the birth defects and the risks for if they want to have a baby, that you should be pesticide free for at least a year, both of you, before you even get pregnant, and then completely organic through the whole thing if you want to reduce your risk of birth defects, because we have Dr. Stephanie Seneff telling us in 15 years we're looking at 80% autism in boys in 15 years. Yeah, and we're also in 30 years looking at increasing the population by 2 more billion people. You know, it wasn't until like the beginning of man, for thousands and thousands of years, until the year 1800, that we reached the first billion. Now, in just 200 years, we are at 7 billion. And now, in 30 years, we're going to add another 2 billion people. So as a public health dietitian, I really have to encourage you people out there that are listening to this show, think about birth control, okay? Think about smaller families. We all need to do that. Everybody on the planet needs to do that, not just us here in the United States, of course. But this is a message that we've got to start embracing, because we're using up all our resources. We only have a finite amount of resources on this planet, and one of the things we have to get good at is growing food. And the way we're growing food right now is sucking up the resources. All these fertilizers and minerals we're having to add to the soil, and billions of pounds of pesticide. Come on, people. You know, this is not going to work. We can't be doing this. We can't be keep on down this road. What do we now are using pesticides that are so horrible that entire states are banning them because they're so bad. And talk about lying. I mean, we have people calling out the EPA right now of being in coercion with Monsanto for 30 years. I talked to a researcher who in 1984, with our top scientist with the latest technology, knowing how big it was, researched Roundup glyphosate and found it to cause kidney tumors. I got a hold of her just a few months ago. She said we had the best of everything. I checked the research over and over again as the overseer, the reviewer of this, and she said we absolutely stand by our findings to this day. And they found it caused kidney cancer. Guess what? Kidney cancer skyrocketing right now. Kidney dialysis. Hardly anyone was on dialysis. Hardly anyone was going to fertility clinics. Think about this, everyone. This was not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal for dementia and Alzheimer's epidemics, people losing their mind, people not being able to function in their later years. Dr. Seneff says all these, and if you go to our homepage, we have Dr. Seneff right there, and you can listen to our interviews with her. They will open your mind like you have never had your mind open before on what is going on with food. Perfect example. Just this week, General Mills lost. All these companies are starting to lose big time. All these lawsuits, they're losing them. Monsanto just, I'll tell you what Monsanto just lost as well, but General Mills just lost on their Nature Valley granola bars. They put natural on there. They lost a court case on that natural. They said that they should not be able to put that on. There's GMOs, there's pesticides, and other ingredients in there that people thought should not make it natural. It was misleading to the consumer, and they lost that lawsuit. And I am glad, because General Mills has done a lot of lying to people. You know, they came out and said, oh, our Cheerios are non-GMO. They have 20 varieties of Cheerios, people. The only one is the plain one. And yeah, it doesn't have GMOs, but it still has Roundup. Is still in there. Do not think that is safe to feed your child. And I don't care what income group. Someone came on my Facebook, oh, well, how dare you tell the poor that, eating these foods are like poisoning their kids. I was on welfare for 8.5 years. I know what it means to be poor. And I was still going to farmers markets. And I didn't eat out. I don't go out. I could afford healthy food, and all I did was buy real food and cooked meals. And guess what? You can afford healthy food that way, especially when you buy farmer direct. You cut out the distributor, the broker, and the retail markup. 3 people that got their hand out that want to cut. You cut all them out. You buy farmer direct. And you have to be careful when you go to the farmer's market. Not all of them are organic. You have to ask them, how do you grow your food? Ask for a taste of their food. Because there are different levels of farming. Not everyone is really a good farmer. Okay, so that's been going on. Now, Monsanto, they also lost big time this week as well. And I find this very suspicious. In California, we had we had passed a law. Well, actually, I thought we were trying to get rid of the pesticides out of medical marijuana. All right. Well, there was actually, I got to say, Pruitt actually did something that I approve of for once. Woo! This guy actually did something at the EPA that was worthwhile. And I find this very suspicious, okay? Apparently, there were 4 pesticides that the state of California, now listen to this really carefully, everyone, because this is like conspiracy theory or something's going on here is all I can say. And it's something that doesn't smell right at all, okay? So, and I'm not talking about some good skunk weed either, because we're talking about marijuana here. I am talking about what's going on at our state level. Now, we have, you know that we are at the beginning of the year, we are officially, marijuana is legal in California. So we're trying to get it together on the pesticide issue in medical marijuana. Well, apparently, the state of California applied to have 4 different pesticides approved for use on medical marijuana. And it just so happens that it's all 4 are made by one company. And it just so happens that I know exactly who these people are because I spent hours researching them. Because it's a company I have absolutely no respect for. And I would just as soon didn't get any of your dollars ever again. And that would mean that you would not buy any Miracle Grow products, any Scott's products, and all of this weed and feed and all that is just putting poison that is subjecting your family to endocrine disruptors, to cancer-causing poisons, okay? And your pets are walking on that grass as well, beside your children, and they are all getting exposed. And pets have, they get sick. It can be very expensive as well. These four products are all made by General Hydroponics. And General Hydroponics is another name for Scott's. And Scott's bought that company. They're trying to get into the hydroponic business now. And then we've got Monsanto getting into the soil microbe business, everyone. There's the old bioag happening over at Monsanto. So, in other words, they've killed, Monsanto Roundup has killed, along with the other pesticides, like 90% of the microbes from our soil that pull carbon from the air and lock it in the soil for the plants and reverse climate change. But, they've killed 90% of it. That's why we have a climate change, everyone. That's why we have a problem. And that's why organic farming is the most important thing we can do right now to reverse climate change. We need to stop spraying these pesticides on our soil, stop killing the soil microbes that pull all the carbon from the air and lock it in the soil, and put these other companies out of business. Because now they come along, oh, we have the microbes, man. We got the microbes. We got the microbes to put back in the soil. So now you have to buy our microbes. Should I turn my phone off? Hey, could you come here, Brandon? I'm calling our engineer here, Brandon. I think, can you call that number? I think Mark Oldfield from the recycling department is trying to get a hold of us. Yeah, we got Mark Oldfield from the recycling department, so we're going to be talking a little recycling here too. He's just trying to get a hold of me. I thought I turned my ringer up, but I'm glad I didn't, so I know he was calling us. So anyway, yeah, they're going to be making these soil microbes and selling them to farmers, the same microbes that they killed in the soil. Yeah. So it's like, oh, thanks a lot, Monsanto. You've only failed at everything. You failed at killing weeds. Now we have pesticide-resistant weeds, and like crazy, like multiple ones all over the country. If that's not enough, now, and then plus Scots, they created a grass that is a GMO grass, and guess what? It doesn't die. And it's spreading all over the state of Oregon. It's the grass that won't die, and it's taking over the state of Oregon. I'm not kidding you. It is spreading all over. They can't kill it because when you spray Roundup, it doesn't die. So that's pretty bad. So did you get a hold of Mark? Okay, cool. All right, and then also the pet food. I wanted to go through. I have a list of some pet foods here too that tested positive for glyphosate. And I want to let you guys know which ones those are, because we got to take care of our pets. Because you know what? If our pets get sick, it's a huge chunk out of our budget too. And we need that sometimes just to take care of our own family. So we want to keep our pets healthy because it actually keeps our family healthy at the same time. And especially if you're not using flea collars that are pure pesticide, please read the labels on those flea collars. Please don't use them. You can try washing your animal with Head and Shoulders shampoo. Believe it or not, it's actually a pesticide. Okay, Purina Cat Chow. These are the pet foods that had glyphosate in them. Purina Cat Chow, Complete Dry, Friskies Indoor Delights Cat Food Dry, 9 Lives Indoor Complete Cat Food Dry, Rachel Ray Zero Grain White Fish and Potato Recipe, Purina Dog Chow, Kibbles and Bits, Chef Choice, Imes, Proactive Health, and it's the Proactive Health one, everyone. Small and Toy Breed, Rachel Ray Nourish Real Beef and Rice, and Purina Beyond Simply White Meat Chicken and Whole Barley Recipe. So all of those have pesticide. That's Roundup, which is on the cancer-causing Prop 65 list in California. They did everything they could. They pulled so many dirty tricks to try to keep that from happening, but unfortunately, didn't happen for Monsanto, happened for the people of California, which I am so very happy about because I like you guys to be protected against these poisons and these pesticides. I wish I didn't even have to talk about it. I wish it wasn't even a problem, but unfortunately it is. And another big problem we have, as a matter of fact, Captain Charles Moore, who discovered the Pacific Garbage Patch and has been a guest on our show. And if you go to our recycling section, which is under our resources tab on our website, we have several different pages on recycling, and we have Mark Oldfield, the communication instructor for the State of California Recycling Program, on the line. I'm about ready to introduce him. But I just wanted to let you guys know some new kind of breaking news, and that is Captain Moore, who discovered the Pacific Garbage Patch, and our interview is in our recycling section. He has now found another garbage patch that's like as big as Mexico in the ocean. And I guess it's in the latest National Geographic magazine, but I'm definitely going to be calling up Captain Moore at Algalita and ask him to give us some information on that. And the person that we have on the phone, Mark Oldfield, is one of those incredible people that is at the state and working to keep our recycling program alive. And we don't realize how lucky that we are, that we have 3 trash cans, for one thing, because not everyone is recycling the way they should, and not everyone has a chance to recycle. I consider it a gift that I get to recycle because I enjoy it. It makes me feel good that I'm not adding to the landfill, that I'm actually recycling products. And so I'm glad that I have that trash can, but there is so much work that needs to be done because we're going for zero recycling, everyone. Well, at least in California, we're shooting for 75% recycling. I'd like to hit 0, of course. Some people are shooting for that. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it involves everybody. Everybody in the whole state. This is for all of us. We are all a part of the recycling program. And I just want to thank Mark for taking the time to join us today on the show. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Elaine. Happy to be here.
Well, We really appreciate you guys and all that you're doing. And I know it's not an easy job, and there's a lot of different things involved. So I think I'd like to ask you, go ahead and just introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about what you do. And then maybe give us, let's start with some good news. Is there any good news on the recycling horizon? I would like some good news today.
Well, sure. As you noted, my name is Mark Oldfield, and I am the Communications Director for the California Department of Resources, Recycling, and Recovery. And we oversee, here at Cal Recycle, that's our short name.
Yeah.
Here at Cal Recycle, we oversee a lot of the waste management programs here in California at the state level. Now, bear in mind that a lot of these things are actually carried out at the local level and the regional level, but we oversee the state laws that affect the various jurisdictions and the various material types that are regulated as solid wastes. And so we do, as you mentioned, have a statewide goal to either source, reduce, recycle, or compost 75% of our waste. It's an aspirational goal. We're working hard to get there. We appreciate everybody who does the right thing and puts the right things to recycle in the recycling bin and puts the garbage in the garbage bin, because we're always going to need landfills. I mean, zero waste is certainly laudable, and maybe someday in the future we'll get there. But for now, we certainly do need landfills. But we're doing more and more to create and maintain and strengthen that recycling infrastructure, so that material that does get put in the recycling bin is turned into new products right here in California, if not somewhere else.
Well, I think, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, is understanding what we can and cannot recycle. And that's, I think, the most confusing thing. And from what I understand, when we put things in the recycle bin that don't belong there, that actually kind of costs the program money, because when you have to remove things that don't belong, that's kind of you've created an extra step there.
Sure. You're absolutely right. It's called basically contamination. When stuff that goes into the recycling bin, it shouldn't be in the recycling bin. It does cause headaches at the facility where that material is dropped off, because they're going to sort that material at the facility, and they're going to move it into its various material types. You're going to put the plastic over here, and the glass over here, and the paper over here, and the cardboard over here, and the aluminum and metal over here. But if there are other things in there, such as food waste or dirty diapers or old hoses or dirty pizza boxes that have a lot of gunk on them still, those things cause contamination. And so what that does is it creates a bunch of residual waste at this recycling facility, and that's waste that has to be managed. And if there's too much of it, it can actually make that recycling facility come under a whole different permitting structure, where they would then be considered a solid waste facility, and that's a lot more complex than just being a recycling facility. So the ideally, only thing that goes in that curbside recycling bin is something that can actually be recycled and is part of whatever your local jurisdiction says is acceptable to put in that recycling bin.
And we're going to get into like some of those different items that maybe people are confused about. But why don't you tell us, kind of give us more of an overview, because recycling involves like so many different things. Like today I was thinking about construction, like construction sites, and all the recycling that happens at like those sites, besides just like our kind of recycling that we're doing in our homes. What are some of the other big industries that are involved in recycling besides construction?
Hey, well, let's look at just the material that's going through the waste stream. In California, we generate somewhere between 90 million and 100 million tons of material every year that has to be managed some way. It's either going to get recycled, or it's going to get composted, or it's going to end up in a landfill, or some of it. A small percentage goes to waste to energy type facilities. But we've got around 90 million tons. As the economy goes up, we get more stuff that we have to manage when the economy's good, because more people are doing stuff like construction, and so you've got more of this construction and demolition debris that has to be managed. A lot of it is recyclable. Some other waste that you don't think about, maybe everybody has to get new tires on their cars once in a while, so we've got these roughly 40 million waste tires every year that are generated in California that have to be managed somehow. So these are some of the things that, while we don't think about them on a day-to-day basis, it's not stuff that we put into our recycling bin. But, if I get, if I get the carpet replaced in my house, what happens to that carpet? That sort of thing. These are some of the things that we don't necessarily think about, but these are things that can be recycled and things that are part of the long-term plan to increase the recycling of these types of materials. Construction and demolition, you mentioned. Certainly organics, which is the number one component of the waste stream. The more of that we can get out of the landfills, where as it decomposes, it releases gases into the air, methane and things like that. So the more we can do to get that material into the resource stream as opposed to the waste stream, the better off we're going to be, and the closer we're going to get to reaching our goals as a state.
Yeah, and even like inside of the landfill, I'm sure things are combining and creating different chemicals. Like when I was reading about the pet food having glyphosate, they use a preservative, the sodium nitrate, that combines with the glyphosate in the pet food to make an even more toxic chemical. So it's like you start putting these things together, and we know about the huge methane accident that happened here in Southern California, and just how toxic that was to people.
Right, and that's certainly something different than what happens at a landfill when you have a big leak like that from a production facility. But yeah, as we look at the climate change goals that California has, and let's face it, right now we're leading the nation and in many respects the world in action against climate change and against emissions with the policies we have in place. And the waste sector is one part of that, and maybe not the biggest part, but certainly the waste sector is a part of it. When you look at landfills and the material that goes into a landfill, whether it's food waste or organic waste or anything that is going to decompose over time, and it does very slowly in modern landfills, because these things are they're tombs basically, and they just kind of capture everything, and the gases that come out are often captured by the methane capture systems, but still enough of it escapes that it's worth fighting that and keeping that material out of landfills that could potentially release those gases. Well, and so we have I'm trying to think of how to get everyone to understand, because we talked about the like construction. Like they are they like a little bit more responsible for recycling their own stuff? Yeah, that's not a regulated. There's like stores that, like outlets that would sell their stuff or reuse wood and things like that is what I'm thinking about. But there is some of that. It's not a huge thing. A lot of the wood that is construction and demolition debris is separated at certain facilities out from the stuff that goes to the landfill, because wood can be chipped. It can be sent into a chipper and grinder and made into mulch and things like that. The concrete can be crushed and used as aggregate material. So a lot of this stuff is recyclable, and a lot of it is recycled. At the same time, construction and demolition debris still accounts for a pretty significant amount of the material that ends up in our landfills, probably 10% or so. Okay, and then the other, we had the carpet people on our show a couple weeks ago, and that was really kind of an eye-opener. It was actually the first time I ever even thought about carpet. Like it being recycled. I was like, gosh, Elaine, you haven't even thought about that, and you've got this huge recycling section on your website and you haven't even covered that. And I think it's something that we're just starting to kind of, move into, that we're trying to learn, what that really means. Besides the fact that it's something like 1 billion square feet a year goes into landfills that's how much we're throwing away, like 1 billion square feet of carpeting. And I learned that when people buy carpet, they pay 25 cents for the recycling. But I saw that there were recycling facilities for carpet. But it seems like with, the carpet recycling and all these other things, it's like, okay, we have these recycled products, but then what are we going to do with them next?
is kind of the thing. And I, like I had mentioned to you in my email, I think I sent you over the article. China has actually been taking a lot of this recycled material. I was really, my very first interview on recycling was when one of the two biggest PET recyclers in the country. And I was shocked to find out that a lot of this PET is just like put on a ship and sent to China. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought I was creating jobs for here in the United States, and instead it was being sent overseas. And so I just feel like there's a lot that has to be done on, like, what do we do with this recycled trash next? What do we make it into? Is that some of the things that you discuss a lot at the state level?
Absolutely. And let's make a distinction between recycled materials and trash as well.
Yeah.
Recycled trash, right? If it's trash, it's not recyclable. If it's recyclable, it's not trash. So I just want to make that
okay. Yeah, thanks,
These
Mark.
are recycled materials, and whether it's aluminum or plastic or glass or paper or as you say, we talked about carpet, these are commodities in the open marketplace, and these commodities are going to go where the markets are, right? So if there's demand here in California, and there is some demand for some of what we collect, and so you talk about creating jobs. Yeah, we've got a ton of recycling-related jobs here in California. I think over 100,000 last time we checked. And so that
I want 1 million.
Hey, so do we. So do we. Absolutely, and we're working on it. But at the same time, there has been over the years there has been a demand, in overseas markets for what is collected here as well. And so what we need to guard against, however, because what we faced in the last few years is that demand is not reliable. And in fact, China has recently, just in the last week, indicated that they're going to put bans on certain materials that have been being shipped there for, ostensibly for recycling, because they were concerned about the contamination issues, that too much of the stuff that they were taking in at various facilities over there, because they went to their own companies that were taking in this material from overseas and finding that a lot of it was actually not recyclable; it was trash. So they're putting up some barriers to the materials coming in from overseas at this point. So it remains to be seen how that's going to play out. But certainly, it could have.
What is plastic from living things? Because I was looking at their list of stuff that they wouldn't accept anymore.
We are a little confused by some of the definition or some of the things they put out.
Okay.
I'm
the only one.
Guess at this point, at this point, what they were talking about, that's, I guess, to be determined. But they did indicate certain plastic films and things like that that they're not going to take anymore. So certainly that could potentially, depending on the extent of it, affect the recycling businesses here in the United States and in California. So that points to something that we've been talking about for a long time here at Cal Recycle, which is the need to build better infrastructure here so that we can manage all this stuff. We're great at collecting stuff for recycling.
Okay.
We're really good at it. We've got curbside all over the state. We've got, infrastructure for bottles and cans. We're really good at collecting material, not necessarily so good at actually turning it around and making new products out of it. And that's why a lot of it gets shipped, overseas. So that's something that we've got some grant programs in place that are to help build these markets so that we can keep more and more of this material over time right here in California and create those jobs here in California and turn those recycled materials that we're all putting in our bin, turn those into new products right here in
How
the
about
United
like
States.
some contests we have so much great creativity, especially in our young people, or the older people that have all this experience, and they can like come up with things. And I just, like, as you were talking, I just had this kind of a competition to create something and get, someone wins something. So that always seems to work pretty good.
We do see stories like that from time to time. Actually, you see, university students or young startup, entrepreneurs finding some new thing to do with these what otherwise might be discards, but that are recyclable. And so who's turning these plastic bottles into a new product, So these
that could be a new industry. That could be
there.
lots of jobs,
It's evolving all the time, and so we do see some good innovation. And so one of the things that our grant money can do is kind of feed that innovation or expand the innovation that's already happened by allowing companies to grow. So, we're going to continue to work on expanding that infrastructure and looking for those people who have these great ideas and helping to grow those businesses.
So what are some of the best success stories that you have?
Well, you look at a company that takes a lot of, they're taking in, I want to say over, I'm not going to guess at the number, but they're taking a lot of the PET, and the company's located down in Southern California. They're taking a lot of the plastic bottles and turning it into pellet flake that can then be reused and turned into new plastic products right here in California. So we need more companies like that who are taking the materials that we're collecting and turning them around, processing them into feedstock for these entrepreneurs who say, I can take that feedstock and I can turn it into mats for restaurant use, or I can turn it into new bottles that can be for storing other products. So these are the types of things that are continuing to evolve over time, and that we're going to continue to help promote.
Is that in Paris, California?
I'm trying to think.
I'm thinking it's the one that I told you that I interviewed, Bahar or something like that.
Yes, that is the company. Yes.
Yeah.
And the name is escaping me right now.
Yeah. It's like Global or something like that. I think it's Global PET, something like that. Yeah, they were telling me about the containers that they make as well. And the thing about PET is that it's 100% recyclable 100% of the time, from what he said. I'm sure it's not like 100%, but
well, and you the thing you run into sometimes with PET is contamination issues with non-PET plastics that look like PET. There are some bioplastics out there now that look a lot like PET. So as we get further along and the technology evolves, we'll be better able to separate out those materials, deal with those contamination issues, and make sure that material is recyclable over and over and over again. So we're not just downcycling it, recycling it once, and then it still ends up in a landfill down the road somewhere.
Yeah, and just to comment on that last statement that you made, because I think that's really important. Like, first of all, I just wanted to mention, like when we take PET and we turn it into new PET, we have just saved a bunch of energy. And in turn, we have saved polluting the air. We have saved putting mercury into our environment, because all of those things happen in the process of having to create energy to turn this oil into plastic. But when we go from plastic to plastic, we actually save a lot of energy and therefore pollution.
Save natural resources as well.
Yeah, and then we don't. Then we can say, Saudi Arabia, hey, we don't need your oil because we got this recycling thing down so good. We just keep reusing our plastic over and over and over again. I was kind of like, I kind of had a little fantasy of that. I thought, wouldn't that be great? And we say, screw you, we don't need any oil, or we don't need to drill another fracking site. It's okay, we got the recycling thing down. We just keep using this plastic over and over and over again. And the bioplastic issue, I mean, I feel like people like Coca-Cola and that, they were coming out with their corn base, which of course is GMO corn with glyphosate. These things are, to me, it's just it's a publicity stunt. It's a way, it's not really doing anything good for the environment, because like you said, it's actually contaminating PET because the system is not made for that type of product. And so it then ends up contaminating the whole system instead of offering a benefit. And that's why I just wish that we could get together and really come up with some standards for all packaging, to where, there isn't this, gray area of, products that contaminate our recycling system and aren't doing any good. And it's clear, very clear to consumers, this is a recyclable item. It needs to go into the recycled trash can. I just feel like, I'm pretty knowledgeable on this stuff and I get confused. So I can imagine the average person that knows nothing about recycling would really be confused about what to put in there. And we do have, did you have that webpage on my website open?
Yeah, I did take a look at it.
Okay, so we're over at our smarthealthtalk.com website in case you want to join us. And if you go in the resources tab and look under recycling, we have a page. What you can and cannot recycle. This was the big question. What can we? And so I went through and got a bunch of my trash that I was kind of like, I don't know, is this? And until I talked to you, Mark, I was like putting all of my my milk cartons in the recycling trash can, like yogurt containers. But those are things that are not recyclable, right?
Well, as I so often say, and this is going to sound like a lawyer talking, but it depends. Technically, is a yogurt container recyclable? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The question becomes: is there somebody who wants to take it and recycle it and actually turn it into something? So with something like that, with a container like a plastic yogurt container, the best thing to do is check with your local recycling coordinator or your waste hauler and say, hey, can I put my yogurt containers in my curbside bin? Because some of them might take them, some of them might not.
Okay, so that's what borderline. That's a borderline one.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Now,
okay.
With milk cartons, you also mentioned milk cartons, that's a coated material. So you're really dealing with two different materials there, which makes it more problematic. And generally speaking, that's not going to be something, at least at this point in time, where we have the technology in place to readily recycle that. There's no efficient way to do it.
That's the carton, but not like the plastic gallon.
Right, certainly a plastic milk jug, that's number 2 plastic. Put it in the curbside bin, absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, and then, I had, as I'm looking down at my pictures here, I have just the glass beverage jar with the lid on it.
Yeah, the metal lid. Yeah, so both of those are recyclable. You want to separate them, though, okay?
Because I don't.
Take the lid off when you put them both in the recycling bin, because otherwise, if that glass breaks and it's still got that lid attached to it, now at the sorting facility, you've got a lid with some broken glass inside of it, and that makes it much more problematic to recycle that lid because it's contaminated now with the broken glass that's still attached to it.
And plus, if I go to the recycling center to get my 5 cents back that I left as a deposit on this, then I can leave my lids in the trash can, in the recycled trash can, and I can take the bottles to the recycling center.
Right, yeah.
That's ideally the best.
California redemption value, which is a nickel on beverage containers less than 24 ounces and a dime on containers 24 ounces or larger. And some of these glass bottles with a metal lid are going to be like juice drinks and stuff like that are subject to the CRV recycling incentive. So yeah, you're going to want to take the lid off of that before you take it to the recycling center because the lids, while technically recyclable, they're not something that they're going to want to throw in with the rest of the glass. So, those are going to want.
And those that I put the 5 cents on, I mentioned last week, you have to have 50 to get the full 5 cents. Otherwise, they just
not at all. I'm going to stop you right there, Elaine, because you can go in with any number of beverage containers. Okay, the 50 count applies if you want to be paid by count. Okay, you can take in up to 50 of each material type and say, please pay me by count. If you go in with more than 50 glass bottles, say you go in with 300 or whatever, then the recycling center, as a matter of business efficiency, is allowed to pay by weight. And you're going to get pretty close to your full nickel for each of those containers. But if you go in with 50 glass, 50 aluminum, and 50 plastic and ask to be paid by count, the recycling center by law has to pay by count. You can go in with 10 if you want and get paid by count. You can go in with 1 and get a nickel back if you want.
Okay.
You don't have to have at least.
Okay. You can tell I get confused. Okay. Well, yeah, and that makes sense. Now, what if, like we were talking, like wine bottles, liquor bottles, they're going to be, that's something that you're working on where people will have to put a deposit down and it will be able to be, you can do a redemption. Yeah, but right now, I couldn't bring a wine bottle down to the recycling center and get money for it, even the weight.
Notable exclusions to the California Redemption Value Program are wine, distilled spirit containers, and milk. Those are the notable exclusions under the current law.
But you're working on changing that.
Well, this is something that's been talked about for a long, long time. You've got like containers with like beverages in them. So as we look at this now, and as we put forward in a policy framework earlier this year, that was released alongside the governor's budget back in January. It did talk about, okay, if you level the playing field and look at these in that sense, that these are light containers with like materials in them, well, would it make sense to include them? And so, that's the direction that policy framework went. Now, there are, other people who've been lobbying for this a long time who have said that these containers should be included. Certainly the wine folks and the liquor folks have said, well, no, we don't need.
I would join that
because we're their argument is that, well, we get collected via the curbside, so we don't need to be part of the CRV program. So that's a debate that's continuing.
But we know that any time that there's a value on that even those get picked up, even by people that just need money.
Wine bottles are not typically something you find by the side of the road.
That's really true.
These are consumed in residences or in restaurants.
That wino left that there.
Yeah. But at the same time, the really one of the important things for us is that you look at the contamination issue, and when these materials go into a curbside bin, much more likely to break, much more likely to get intermingled with paper and other things because it's glass and it breaks and it's sharp. It gets caught up in other material types. Whereas if it goes to a buyback center, it goes in with glass. And that's just in all the glasses together. And so you have a much cleaner stream of material, which is better for the buyers at the back end. They want a clean stream. They want a consistent stream of material. And at these buyback centers, you get that because the materials are source separated. There's no contamination issues or very little contamination issues when you take it back through the California Redemption Value Program buyback centers.
And what about foil if it's dirty?
Again, that's something you're going to want to check with your local recycling coordinator or your local waste hauler. See whether they accept foil or not. I mean, foil it's metal; it's easily cleaned. So even if it's dirty, it's still theoretically.
So like with the cans too, the cans.
Yeah, I mean aluminum cans, less contamination issues.
Or just like the dog food cans and the.
Yeah, right. Now that's a steel can. Steel is a metal. It's it's something that you can put in the curbside bin. It's going to be recycled. It's a valuable commodity. The metals are the most valuable of the recyclables that go into the curbside bin.
Oh, they are. Oh, yeah. That's good to know. Okay, well, shoot, gosh, every time I have time with you, it goes so fast, Mark, as I'm enjoying myself talking about this because I feel like it's important. But anyway, we have about a minute left, and I want to give you a chance to tell people where to find more information. So would you mind
Sure.
Giving them a heads up on that?
Yeah, a couple of websites you can go to. Ours is calrecycle.ca.gov. And we've got a lot of information about these types of consumer-facing recyclables like bottles and cans and tires and electronics and oil and stuff like that. And then another resource that is very valuable just for all these other types of materials, you want to find out where locally you can recycle them, earth911.com. And you just enter your zip code there and enter what type of material you're concerned about, and it'll show you if there's any place locally where you can take it or what else you might be able to do with it.
All right, great info. Thanks, everyone, all our listeners out there, all our KCAA listeners. I always want to thank you for tuning in to Smart Health Talk today. I'm your host, Elaine McFadden. That was Mark Oldfield, the Communication Director at our State Recycling Department. And I hope you'll go and check out our website and under resources and all our great pages we have on that. And we'll be back again next Tuesday, 4 o'clock, right here for you. That's right. All right. Elaine saying bye-bye. Bye, organic.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
The Cavaliers are adding a former MVP. ESPN reporting the Cavs and Derrick Rose are agreeing to a one-year deal worth $2.1 million. Cavs fans now await to see the fate of All-Star Kyrie Irving, who recently demanded a trade. With NFL teams set to report to training camp this week, the Cowboys are moving on without wide receiver Lucky Whitehead. They release him after news surfaced Monday. He's facing larceny charges following a shoplifting arrest last month and subsequent missed court date. The Broncos are rewarding GM John Elway with a new 5-year contract to keep him in Denver through at least 2021. He's guided the franchise to 5 AFC West Division titles and 2 Super Bowl appearances. On the diamond, the AL East Titans as the Red Sox fall 4-0 in Seattle. The Yankees off Monday, but pulled within 2 games of Boston. Orioles blank the Rays 5-0. Royals top the Tigers 5-3-12. And Jacob deGrom wins his 8th straight start. The Mets hold on.